Welcome to Review Nation, and today we are doing such a really strange video idea that I just came up with. And today we are doing if metal albums were seasons, if metal albums were allocated a season. We're talking about summer, autumn, winter, spring, because not all of you listen to the same band over and over again throughout the year. There's no doubt you'd be pretty fucking bored. I'm sure you also alternate albums throughout the seasons, and this is what this video is all about. But we're going on wild adventure here and saying if metal albums were seasons. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through 4 albums throughout each season on what albums I think would actually fit summer, autumn, winter, or spring. And I also want you guys to give me your albums as well in the comments below. So let's start off with summer. And the first album is Iron Maiden Power Slave. The reason why I chose Iron Maiden Power Slave was, come on, look at the Egyptian Sphinx on the cover. It's an absolutely amazing song. Aces High is incredible. I absolutely love Flash of the Blade, Rhyme of the Ancient fucking Mariner, Power Slave. An amazing album, it really is. It's so energetic, but Iron Maiden Power Slave fits into summer perfectly, because it also tells you how unpredictable this album is, and we all know that summer is very unpredictable as well. Like, you could get some really extreme heat waves, some really cold days as well, and some thunderstorms. This album powers you through that storm. So the next is more of a turbulent album, and we're talking about when there are thunderstorms happening throughout summer. It is Parkway Drive, Deep Blue. A very good album, not the best album by Parkway Drive, but my god, it fits perfectly throughout the season of summer. And the reason why is, come on, look at that cover. The cover fits perfectly, very unpredictable. At times the album feels vibrant, and at times the album feels dark. It feels like a transitional album. Winston's vocals are so damn deep, demonic, and his growls are incredible. Bubby's fry screams as well. But yet this album is sprawling, and it's well accomplished, and also quite ambitious. This is something very different by Parkway Drive, and I just love that metalcore feel. This is why this album deserves to fit in summer. It's the overall structure, unpredictable this album is. So the next album is Alcest and Kadama. Okay, so what can I say about this album? This is one of my favorite Alcest albums, and it just feels like a summery album. The reason why I say it feels like a summery album, you can imagine that it's around about 30 degrees outside, but there's also some very high humidity. And once that humidity builds, you get huge thunderstorms. And again, this is when the cool change comes and you get that thunderstorm activity. And this is what this album represents to me. This album could perfectly fit in the summer, especially in the tropical areas. Also, how turbulent this album is. They incorporate shoegazy elements, or black gaze elements, along with black metal elements. And Nage's screams are absolutely incredible throughout this album. But he's got that angelic voice as well. And it's like a crazy transitional part of summer here. The next album, so the final album for summer is Pantera, and the album Far Beyond Driven. This album is another in-your-face album. Phil's vocals throughout this album are just so damn stunning, but yet dynamic and well-focused. He incorporates those harsh vocals, remind me of a cold front that pushes through. And this is when you get some really transitional weather happening, and this is when we transition into autumn. Usually you get some really severe thunderstorms throughout summer and high humidity, and some really hot temperatures as well. And this is what this album reminds me of. Pantera Far Beyond Driven is so damn in your face, so damn heavy, and especially songs like Becoming, that amazing guitar riff, bum, bum, doo, 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 by Dimebag, I'm Broken, Hardline, Sunken Cheeks, absolutely amazing songs on this album. And this is why this is a perfect fit for summer. It's because it's how crazy this album is. And because we all know that summer is crazy. Summer can be crazy, but yet summer can be calm as well. And this is what I think these 4 albums hold. They hold calmness, they hold craziness, and they also hold heaviness. So we move on to autumn. The things really transition into that winter period. But of course in autumn, you get some really hot weather as well. and you also get some really cold weather. So without further ado, the first album that fits perfectly into autumn, in my opinion, is Slipknot, their new album, We Are Not Your Kind. This album is very transitional, very experimental as well, and this is what I feel that autumn is like. Is that one day it can be hot and the next day it can be cold. Like you can get 4 seasons in one season. And this is how Slipknot We're Not Kind represents. Unsainted is an amazing song. Nero Forte, Critical Darling, such interesting, dynamic, heavy songs that are headbanging at times. You get really experimental songs like Spiders and heavy, hard-hitting songs like Orphans. Soulwave Firth to end off the album. In my opinion, one of the best Slipknot albums of all time. Of course, in autumn, we get some pretty dark days as well. Like the weather transitions, we get some really heavy rain as cold fronts push through. And what album that really represents some dark, cold weather is Leprosy by Def. Leprosy is hard-hitting, it's death metal. Chuck's vocals throughout this album is one of the most aggressive vocals I've heard by Def. Especially songs like Left to Die, Pull the Plug, and that melody throughout Pull the Plug, and Open Casket. What an incredible song that is. I love it, and I feel that this album perfectly fits into the crazy weather that autumn holds. Not to mention Leprosy, an amazing song, a very long and at times proggy song. As the season progresses, the average temperature drops, and it gets a lot darker and gloomier, and we start to see a bit more rain. We are talking about Opeth Blackwater Park. This does feel like a dark, atmospheric album. My God, I could easily fit this into winter as well. Songs like Bleak, Harvest, an incredible ballad, but Bleak, Steven Wilson's vocals on this with Michael's vocals are just absolutely incredible. Along with that chorus, the Drapery Falls, really incredible song. And then the title track, Blackwater Park, and that ending, wow. Just feels like it's a warning that you're heading towards winter as you listen to this album. Okay, so the next album is Ahab, The Core of the Wretched Seas. This album perfectly fits into autumn along with winter. We're talking about months in May in the southern hemisphere and around November in the northern hemisphere. Is that this album is funeral doom, but it's also got that atmospheric element. And this just feels like a really dark, deep autumn album. It's because of how heavy this album is and how unpredictable autumn weather is as well. Like at times, this album has some really slow moments and it's got infectious melodies as well, but at times you also get some hard, heavy, fast-hitting moments, especially for a funeral doom band like Ahab. And I love how Ahab do it. Fantastic album it is, and that is the last album for autumn. So we're going into doom and gloom now. First album that comes to mind when I think of winter, it is none other than Swallow the Sun, The Morning Never Came, and this is the first ever album by Swallow the Sun, the debut album, and while this is Death Doom, Through Her Silvery Body is incredible. I love the chunky guitar riffs throughout this album. Miko's vocals is just all harsh vocals, but this album has that atmosphere, has that wintry atmosphere, and it feels like a winter album. Beautiful at times, but how creepy at times as well. It's got that. It's a very depressing album to listen to, but it definitely deserves to be in winter. Well, this might be a little bit cheating, but Winter Sun, The Forest Seasons is the next album. And overall, this just feels like a winter album. It really does. Although it's got seasons throughout every single song, such as got Awaken from Dark Slumber, which is spring, and you got Loneliness Washed Away, The Morning Sun, which is winter. It's a very atmospheric album. What you want with a winter album is atmosphere. This album just nails the core of your soul right here, and I love it. And it's a perfect winter album. Alright, so we're heading towards the heart of winter now, and one of the albums that really make me shiver in despair is Mayhem, De Mysterious Dom Satanas. This album is incredible. It's also the history of it. The history is just so damn gruesome. I'm not going to to mention the history. Might do a video about Mayhem's history maybe later on in the year. This album is dark. The bloody tremolo picking by Euronymous throughout this album, not to mention the drumming is so damn intense as well, and Attil's vocals throughout this album, scary they are, and it just feels like a really wintry album. Creates that atmosphere. Funeral Fog is an incredible song, along with Freezing Moon. Dead wrote these lyrics, but Attila performed them since Dead died years before this album was created. But my god, this is an incredible black metal album. It really is, and it fits perfectly into winter. So as the season starts to wind down, we get the next album. It's Catatonia, Two Nights Decision. This album is absolutely brilliant. It really is. And Jonas's vocals throughout this album are so damn angelic. He's got a voice of an angel, and I love I Am Nothing. And also In Death, a song. That guitar melody throughout In Death, a song is fantastic. But what's also magnificent, the reason why I put this in winter was because of the atmosphere. This album has atmosphere. You will notice that all of these albums in winter have that atmosphere that you want. And this album is perfect for winter. This album is breathtaking at times, goes so damn fast. The lyrics on the other hand are so damn depressing, and it just fits with the doom and gloom of winter. So now as the weather starts to warm up, we get to spring. And the first album is Cradle of Filth, Thornography. This album's fantastic. It is very transitional. It's got that new Cradle of Filth sound, and something Cradle of Filth never have done before, but it's got amazing songs like Temptation, Under the Huntress Moon, Tonight in Flames. It's also got a little bit of that atmosphere. It's just a brilliant album, hand in hand. Danny's vocals are just absolutely magnificent throughout this album. Dash Inferno. I love this album, and this is why it's in spring, because it's refreshing. This is a refreshing album, and you want something that is refreshing. Alright, so this may surprise some of you, but one album I think is perfectly in spring is Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime. This is a 10 out of 10 album. I don't care what anyone says. I know my mate doesn't like this album. He actually hates it. But my god, I love this album. I did a reaction to it and I fell in love with it. And I think this is a magnificent album. It's the concept album as well, but this album just feels so damn refreshing. Speak to Me is a great song. Mission, Sweet Sister Mary, like it's a 10-minute masterpiece. I love this album. It's one of my favorite albums, and I think it's a perfect album to fit in spring. Okay, so this is a bit of a cheating. I'm gonna add another artist, and it's Alcest Shelter. Alcest Shelter has that spring feel. It really does. It's not a metal album per se, but my god, it is a beautiful album. I love the guitars. There's just clean vocals throughout this album, and it just feels like a vibrant album. And the reason why it's in spring is because of the transitional weather. You get a really hard-hitting album like Thornography. It transitions to Queensryche. You've got some beautiful calm weather, and this is where Alcest Shelter fits in. I love it. It's a beautiful album, really is. And it's definitely spring worthy. So the next album is my favorite band of all time. It is Dream Theater, Octavarium. And the reason why I put Dream Theater, Octavarium is because of a cycle. The reason why I put Octavarium was because it's a cycle. The weather is a cycle, isn't it? It goes for 4 seasons. The climate changes throughout the year. And I love Octavarium for what it is. Love most of the songs off the album. And I just love that 24-minute masterpiece, Octavarium. Octavarium is the cycle of things. It could be the cycle of seasons as well. And I love it. And I think it's a great album to end off this video. So guys, comment below your seasonal albums as well. This was a really retarded video, but you know what? It's nice to improvise now and again on this channel. So keep discussion going in the comment section below. Subscribe if you want. And I will see you in the next one.